So my name is Larry Krieger. I'm a clinical professor here at Florida State University College of Law. I've been here for 17 years, all good. Just before that, I was the chief trial counsel for the state comptroller's office. My main job there was I was kind of in charge of the major fraud prosecutions around the state of Florida. That sort of completed an 11-year litigation career, so I had a pretty intense litigation experience for over a decade before I came to law teaching. I attended law school at the University of Florida, our arch enemy right down the road. So I used to be a Gator, now I'm a Knoll with strong Gator ties. Before that, I went to Princeton, so I had that kind of Ivy League pedigree on my resume, which helped, I think, give me some credibility for some of the different things I've been doing, which have turned out to be a little unusual since I've been here at FSU. The most recent thing first, we've been able to form a new section of the Association of American Law Schools called Section Unbalance in Legal Education, premised on the idea that we could use more balance in legal education in a variety of ways. And that came out of a little initiative, movement, I suppose you could call it, called Humanizing Legal Education, that we also started here by just starting a listserv on our server about 9 years ago. And that made it clear how much people really were hungry for something that sounded like humanizing legal education, because we immediately, without really even advertising it on large listservs, we immediately had 250 or so law teachers and administrators from around the country subscribe almost instantly within 2 weeks. And it's held steady now for a while, around 400. So, and that started this whole kind of movement, I would say, this piece of it, because there's so many other pieces, really from within legal education, having large-scale conversations about what might be wrong with legal education and what we might be able to do about it, looking at the human aspects, the student and lawyer well-being aspects of it. And then that spilled over into the training, the thinking, how to be a lawyer, how to train a lawyer, and really has carried over into the thinking about why so many lawyers are struggling. My instinct right from the start, having been a litigator and then coming here and starting to teach and seeing the problems that I had seen as a litigator among lawyers and experienced myself, no doubt. I really thought I could perceive how they started in law students right here in law school. And I think I've been fortunate to be at FSU. It's a good law school academically and quite a rising law school, but it's also quite a traditional law school, fairly typical in the way it teaches and the different priorities that we have here for the faculty and for the students. So I would say the way that this whole humanizing legal education idea came about was I had that background. I didn't mention earlier, but when I was in college, I majored in biology, so I'm kind of a scientist. You know, biology is a little bit softer than physics and all that, but I was very much steeped in scientific method. I took a lot of psychology, and subsequently I took additional psychology and some postgraduate work that I did, and I was very interested in it. Once I had all this litigation experience and then got to law school, I thought I could see in my students, even in a very non-threatening class that isn't graded on the curve like the rest of the classes and like most law schools do. I teach a pass-fail class. But I could see the tension and the anxiety in them as they were trying to learn the skills that that I teach, the basic lawyering skills. And one day it just popped in my mind as a student was standing there kind of struggling and clearly holding herself back with her own anxiety, trying to do it perfectly the first time, which is crazy. Who does anything perfectly? But I think that's one of the things we inculcate in our students and ultimately in lawyers is the expectation that they have to be perfect. So some old psychology popped into my head. This is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs in action. Wow, here's this student, she's so bright, she's so intelligent, she's so capable. She was practically self-actualized when she got into law school, and now after a year and a half, she's right down there at the bottom of the rung, practically fearing survival if this doesn't work out for her, if she doesn't do well. So I just kind of jumped off the teaching pedestal there. I teach from a sort of, it's a practice courtroom. And I was up there because she was making some argument or something. And so I was playing judge, the way we do in law school. And I kind of jumped down. I started writing on the board Abraham Maslow's Hierarchy of Human Needs. And I said, how many had this in school? And nearly everybody did. I said, okay, I want you to take a minute now and just think, where are you on this hierarchy? And if you don't remember it, his progression of human life as we mature, we start out just trying to survive. And then once we're pretty sure we're surviving okay, then we go to needing security, which means surviving tomorrow. And then we go to needing belonging and love and then esteem of other people. Those are all considered lower needs. They're not very self-sufficient. And then the higher needs are for self-esteem and self-actualization. So it's a six-step process. And I thought these students are all way down here now. As highly capable people, why should they be down there? Something's wrong. And I asked them, after I explained the hierarchy, reviewed it for them, where do you all think you are? And I had them think about it a minute, and I said, so how many feel like you're at survival? And about half of them raised their hands. And how many feel like, just going up, how many feel like you're at security? That's your dominant need right now. Nearly the entire other half raised their hands. There were one or two in a class of 20 that were not at the very basic, will I survive today and tomorrow feeling. Which pretty much confirmed, it started to come together for me, you know, the pressure I felt as a lawyer and that I saw in other lawyers to be great in order to be okay, and to win and to always get what your client wanted as a mark of being okay as a lawyer. So this went on for a few years, teaching like this. The next thing that happened is my dean, who's still my dean, handed me a copy of the Journal of Law and Health from 1995 with one of Andy Benjamin's studies, along with Connie Beck was the main author there, a study of thousands of lawyers in Washington State. And I always like to say, of course, our lawyers in Florida aren't like this. These are the Washington lawyers, you know. Until I did research and found out at least our law students are like this. Showing all the dysfunction among lawyers. Huge, disproportionate levels of emotional distress of all kinds among lawyers. Not just depression, but anxiety, obsessiveness. The highest one is something called interpersonal sensitivity, which actually, interestingly, for the later work I've done, is defined as the need to compare favorably with other people. And if you think about how we grade in law schools, where does that come from? In order to be okay, you have to be basically better than other people. That's actually a known mental illness called interpersonal sensitivity. And the lawyers were sky high in that. More than a third were in the clinically ill range on that scale, which is really quite frightening.